Bitch is a Bad Word podcast is for informational purposes only and reflects the opinions of the host and guests. It contains explicit content and discusses sensitive topics such as domestic abuse, sexual assault, and violence, which may be distressing to some listeners. Please take care of your emotional well-being while listening. While we strive for accuracy, we make no warranties about the completeness or reliability of the information, and any reliance on it is at your own risk. We do not endorse third-party views and are not liable for any defamatory claims. Listeners should conduct their own research and consult professionals before making decisions. If you or someone you know is in danger, please call 911 or contact the National Domestic Abuse Hotline 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 800-799-7233 or text START, S-T-A-R-T, to 88788. We've got your back, besties. Caliber Studios has not independently verified the information you're about to hear. Reality isn't always what it seems. It's what you make of it. Sons of Anarchy actress Ali Walker debuts her electrifying new thriller, The Light Runner, on June 6th at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. But our bestie gang can pre-order it now at aliwalkerofficial.com. She's a baddie. She's your new bestie, and we've got her back. Go visit her website, aliwalkerofficial.com, and pre-order The Light Runner now. Welcome back to Bitch is a Bad Word. Hi, I'm Lindsay. I'm one mom with 4 kids and 0 fancy letters behind my name. I am taking my experience and matching it up with all of the new besties that we'll introduce you to that have the expertise to help us understand and unpack what we're going through on this journey through and out of domestic abuse and into a space of surviving and thriving again. Today, we have an amazing guest. Her name is Phoenix Gould, and she is here to help us understand the importance of radical self-love. Rising from the ashes, that's what we are doing. And we are finding ourselves in a place where we can accept ourselves, love ourselves for where we are in the moment that we're in, so we can be better mamas, better partners, better friends, better besties to the people around us. So welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us on Bitch is a Bad Word.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
I just want to jump right into this because having self-love and compassion and feeling like you're good enough after you've left an abusive relationship is probably one of the hardest things that I have ever personally experienced. You spend all these years being told you're worthless, and obviously you believe the lies that you're told, and it becomes part of your internal dialogue. So to have the strength and the courage to leave a relationship and start your life again and turn off that noise, that dialogue, and start to really love yourself again, that's hard. So how do we do that?
Oh, yes, I know. It is really hard. You're right, because we have heard so many times that it's our fault, and we have internalized that, right? We have created a relationship with ourselves where we don't trust ourselves anymore, and where we're always looking for what we're doing wrong. So how do we do that is, usually when we come out of a relationship like that, we're looking for that external validation, right? We're looking for that external a relationship to reassure ourselves, which is so understandable. But what we have to realize is that we have to start with ourselves. We have to change that relationship we have with ourselves, again, into a loving, supporting one where we can cheer ourselves on. And so this is, sorry.
I said, oh, that's inspiring to hear, to be your own cheerleader.
Yes, yes. And so, first of all, I think we have to realize it's a learning process. We don't have to be good at it right away as long as we just keep practicing it. And over time, all these little steps of practice will shape a different relationship with ourselves to where it becomes really normal and where it becomes our normal pattern to be really kind with ourselves. But it will take time because, for so long we haven't been doing it.
Right. What is a practice that we can do to help us feel good on this journey?
Right. So, this is where this practice comes in that I love to talk about, and I call it radical self-love. Because when I started my journey with self-love, I was reading all these books. You have to love yourself, stand in front of the mirror and tell yourself that you love yourself. And I tried it, and all I could do was cry because I did not love myself. And it felt like such a lie to tell myself. And many years after my own healing journey, I discovered this radical self-love, which is very different. Radical self-love doesn't require that you love yourself to start with.
Okay.
Radical self-love is basically using anything you feel. For example, if you feel that, you can't love yourself. If you can accept and love the fact that right now you don't love yourself, you're practicing self-love. So basically, the idea is if I feel like, oh my God, I really can't love myself, to take the time to connect with the part of ourselves that doesn't know how to love ourselves, that can't find love for ourselves, and then to give that part of ourselves unconditional love. And unconditional love is that we don't try to change it.
Oh.
So we're not trying to change the fact that we right now can't love ourselves. We're just accepting, embracing, and eventually giving that unconditional love, like, okay, this is where I am right now. And it doesn't need to change. As long as we can hold space for us in that moment of, wow, it's so hard for me to love myself, and find compassion for that part that can't love itself and say, right, of course I can't love myself. It makes total sense, right? I've been in this really bad relationship for so long where I've heard all the time that it's my fault. Of course I don't know how to love myself. And that's okay. I get it. I understand it. I'm just holding space for the fact that right now I wouldn't even know where to begin.
That's a hard place because you don't know where to start, right? And so you've made it sound very simple. And
It is.
I have this vision of like how when my son or my daughter gets hurt, you immediately, or they're sad or they're upset, you immediately go and you love them unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
Why we're not doing it for ourselves?
Yes.
Why do we, we need to almost be the parent that we didn't have to ourselves.
That is the trick. I mean, that really is the key to healing from any kind of childhood trauma. When we didn't have that parent that could love us, right? We need to reparent ourselves. And so in radical self-love, this is exactly what we're going to do. We become our own parent to that part of ourselves that feels whatever it feels: anger, jealousy, self-loathing, shame, anything. All we want to do is give every part of us that unconditional love, which means we don't need to change it in this moment. In this moment, we're not asking it to change. We're just holding space. We're just trying to find compassion and understanding for why we are the way we are.
Okay. And why we are the way we are may not be actually true. If we've been told all these lies all the time about how bad we are and worthless we are, I'm trying to understand in my particular relationship. I'm trying to see the person that hurt me and identify who they are. And, are they a narcissist? Or what kind of personality disorders or traits do they have that would lend them to be abusive or whatever, be pretty horrible to somebody.
Yeah.
And so I look at it saying, okay, on my best days, well, if I'm going to have compassion for this person, which is really hard to say, I try to look at them like a child. And I know their childhood trauma, and I try to think, okay, so this person, didn't have the love from a parent that they needed, and they never recovered. And they've carried this into their adult life. Then I get kind of stuck on this, like, well, hold on, why am I excusing this person's behavior as a grown ass, fully cooked person? They should be doing the work and not taking it out on me like a toddler or a child would take their anger, frustration out on the other person. So for me, there's this like balance of like, I feel for you. I understand you. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to be part of that space anymore, because now I have to love myself more than I loved trying to fix you. Yeah. But bringing it back to saying, okay, we can have compassion as a person towards another person as just a human component. Does compassion mean forgiveness? Do you have to forgive them? Or do you just find that when you're not holding negative thoughts and energy at all in your body, you're better?
Though, you're talking about such a dilemma that we run into, as you have described. I think that empathy and compassion in the beginning for the narcissist can actually get in the way. Because we really, we have been so understanding and so compassionate and so empathetic with them that we forgot ourselves. It's actually really, really good to tap into that anger of, wait a minute, that was so wrong. Like I think we need that anger that will give us that strength to stand up for ourselves, to make space, to draw a strong boundary. And so sometimes that compassion, it's lovely if we can have both, if we can keep a distance, love ourselves and love the narcissist at the same time. But more often than not in the beginning, I feel like it tends to get in the way of my client's journey to really tap in with the hurt, with the pain, with the trauma, so that they can first develop empathy and love for themselves. I think what happens naturally, and now I have discovered this, which is incredible for me because I never thought I would get there, after I think it's been now 28 years of healing, where I have done such deep, complete healing in certain places. Of course, I've not done, but it just has been deep enough that I've been able to go back to the narcissist, which is my mother, after 8 years of not having seen her, of having taken that strong distance and deepening that healing even more. I was able to go back and have compassion naturally.
Oh, wow.
There was no work involved. And that's when I realized is that, wow, once we've healed enough, compassion for the narcissist comes back naturally and is not in the way of anything. Now we can completely love ourselves, and we can see what the narcissist is doing and how they're trying to jam the knife into our body in whatever way, and not be affected, and just go, oh my God, I have so much compassion and love for you. Like, I never thought that's possible. But I think it's a natural step in the healing process if we get far enough.
So in your experience, if someone was raised by a narcissistic parent and didn't do the healing that they needed to do, are they more likely to find themselves in a relationship with a person that mirrors the relationship they had with the parent that was unreachable?
Absolutely. I think that's the pattern, because how we grow up shapes who we are. And when we grow up with a narcissist, we have that complete lack of self-confidence and self-esteem. We feel that there's something wrong with us. That's what we've learned. So we will enter relationships where we get to experience that again. And because there is that hope, if I could finally convince them that I'm good enough, then I'll be feeling better, right? Mm-hmm. Plus, we don't recognize the red flags in the new relationship. And narcissists are really good at picking out those of us who have gone through a narcissistic prior experience, so they can tap right into that, and it's going to be very easy for them because we won't see the red flags. We have no boundaries. We are super empathetic. We want to always understand. We work so hard to make a relationship work. So yeah, we are very likely, if we have not done the healing work, to end up in a similar relationship.
Well, and the red flags feel like home. So, you know, the person that's presenting across from you, I always like, this feels, I mean, it's absolute freaking chaos, but it reminds me of home. And it felt normal, familiar, and oddly, before it got physical, it felt safe. Like it felt like, oh, this is just how people work through their shit with each other. They just rage and like, you know, I'd be like, okay, well, that's how I used to be spoken to. And I would just remember like sitting up going, okay, eventually she's going to calm down and ask me for forgiveness. And you know, it's not going to happen again. That's how I grew up. And so I found myself very much in that relationship where it was just like, that's kind of what I expected. And I had been so used to it. Then you're like, okay, then you see it affecting your kids. So is narcissistic trait, these are all, we're hearing so much about generational trauma. Is this, so my compassion for my mother has to start with like, maybe this is how she was raised. She, you know, and then the person before that. So is it truly generational if you do not stop the cycle and do the work? Are you more inclined to become a narcissist and or fall into a relationship with one?
Well, you know, the first question of, are you more likely to become a narcissist if you don't do the work? Actually, the current understanding is that you know, when you go through trauma with a narcissist, some people go through the same trauma will become a narcissist, and some people go through the same trauma will not become a narcissist, and that it is somewhat already established by the age of 6.
Oh.
This is very interesting, isn't it? And so in my belief and understanding, with going really deep and trying to understand what made me different from my mom, right? She had trauma in her childhood. Why didn't I end up a narcissist? My belief is that we both experience the same amount of shame and feeling of not being enough, low self-esteem, and all that entails, but that those who don't become narcissists find a way to live in that darkness and live through that darkness. Somehow we are able to bear the shame and the low self-esteem and that constant insecurity. And narcissists found a way to avoid the shame and the low self-esteem through, you know, that adaptation that becomes narcissistic behavior, to where they found that way of avoiding to feel that shitty, so they don't have to walk through that darkness. They don't have to bear the darkness. Maybe they couldn't. I don't know. I think, you know, in retrospect, I feel so lucky that I, when I was young enough, made that choice, or was lucky enough to be able to bear that darkness that we go through when we, you know, when we are raised by a narcissist. And somehow they didn't, which is they're constantly trying to avoid that incredible feeling of self-loathing and shame, which makes them hurt other people instead, right? So I think if it is true, if Western psychology has it right, that it's already established by the age of 6, then it has nothing really to do with doing the work, because we don't do any work before 6, right? Maybe it starts now 20s or 30s or wherever we are, but it's kind of like maybe the luck of the draw, or the choice of our spirit, or whatever that may be. But I do believe that we carry forward our trauma, so that if we have not healed from the abuse that we endured, that we pass certain patterns onto our children for sure, right? Because our insecurity will affect our parenting, our constant doubting ourselves will affect our relationship with them, because really the relationship we have with ourselves determines all the other relationships we have with other people, with our children, with our partners, and with life as well.
I got chills when you said that it's like by 6 years old, we are either a narcissist or not. I mean, that is like alarming to hear, but it's also kind of makes a lot more sense to understand that somebody is walking through the world from a very young age, just with this predisposition, basically, that it's not that they've just made this decision in their 20s to just be an asshole to somebody. It's like, that's just all they know. And so if I could look down at a 6-year-old child and think like how much empathy you would have for a 6-year-old struggling through something, and that it's not their fault. They didn't choose this, that it is like a disease more than anything, than a choice. So you have more empathy. Oh, geez.
I know. Doesn't it make it harder in some ways?
Like, oh gosh. And now I'm going to walk around school like trying to spot the narcissist so we can help them.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we're going to take a little break. And when I come back, I want to talk about a little bit more about your relationship as a child with your mother.
Sure.
And how that developed over the years. So we'll be right back, besties.
I met him at my daughter's college graduation. I pictured being in a fight with him. He was my daughter's boyfriend. 20 days later, he took her life when she tried to break up with him. When Dating Hurts is the name of my podcast. I knew I could not bring Kristen back, but believed I could help others who became tangled up in dating abuse and domestic violence. My guests are domestic violence survivors. Who knows more about the toxicity, the entrapment, devious manipulation, the loneliness, the pain and suffering than brave survivors who live to tell about it? Their stories are raw, intimate, plain-spoken, deeply personal. For many, this is the first time they've told their stories in one place. Today's survivors want current victims to know there are ways to achieve freedom. There is a process that's safe, that this can happen to anyone, and that you are not alone. Join me and my courageous guests on the When Dating Hurts podcast. It's a series of lives being saved.
Okay, welcome back, besties. We have Phoenix Gould with us today, and she is exploring the world of narcissism and growing up in a relationship with a narcissistic parent and how that sort of changes your roadmap to your future. And so I want to ask you grew up with a narcissistic mom. And, we're learning that can obviously have a big impact on future relationships and more likely to go into a toxic one. So how did this worldview shape you as a child and young adult?
Oh my God. I mean, it is such a profound effect that it had. I feel like, when we grow up with a parent that is loving enough, we get this really strong center. We feel self-confident and we walk into the world and we just deal with life. Right? We just deal with life. Mm-hmm. And when we have grown up with a narcissistic parent, we don't get that core of self-esteem and self-value. And so we walk around without a core. And everything we do in life is hard. Everything is hard because we have no trust in our choices. We have no trust in other people. We experience life as complicated. We experience relationships as complicated. It's not a normal thing for us to receive love and to feel lovable. We feel that we always have to work really hard to be accepted, to be loved. And for us, love has never been an unconditional experience. It's not just there because we are good. Mm-hmm. We have to change ourselves. And my experience was, I have to change myself into the person that the other person that sits across from me wants me to be in order to be lovable. Because I, at the core, am insufficient and not lovable. Which also means that if they could ever find out how I truly feel and what I truly think, they would turn and run for their lives. I would be abandoned. That was my belief, right? Mm. And so I had no spontaneity with people. I was not focused on me or life. I was always focused on the other person. Who are they? What are their expectations? How can I fulfill them? And I would constantly watch them. I would try to be a chameleon with everyone that I knew, except for maybe my closest friend, who I dared to be open with, and myself. But in all other relationships of my life, I was always careful. I was always observing. No matter what I said, I would look for how it landed. And then if it was accepted, I'm okay, I could go more that way. And if it was not accepted, I would tweak it. Like I would bend myself out of shape every second of the day when I was in the presence with other people, just to be accepted and loved.
I love that chameleon reference, because that's what it feels like. I mean, trying to understand and read people's temperature and behavior. And, that's how I grew up. Just what kind of mood are they in? But for our listeners, what specifically does it look like? What is a narcissistic parent? Because we hear this word everywhere. And, it's kind of thrown around. I've said this before, like psychopath now. Like back in the day, everybody was a psychopath. Well, no, they're not really all psychopaths. And now everybody's a narcissist. But what does it really look like to have a narcissistic parent? What are they capable of doing? Maybe a couple things are not capable of doing.
Well, they're really not capable of seeing the child as a human being. They see the child as they see every other person in their life as an appliance, like a toaster or a washing machine that either works or doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, then it needs to be smacked really hard to make it work again. So they can't see the child as an individual human being that has needs of their own.
Okay.
They can't really always love it. They are capable of love and attachment, but as soon as the child does something that doesn't fit into their expectations, that love turns into hate in the fraction of a second.
Oh, wow.
So they cannot hold space for any personality, for any difference in opinion, for any needs.
So they turn into hate, so they are conditional. They love you conditionally.
Yes.
And the condition is based on you being good or bad, or working or working or not working.
Exactly.
And then they turn off. So that they're going to go to you. So is it physical? They get physical with you. They get verbal with you. It's an inability, but can that switch go right back to love in the same few seconds?
No, usually that requires hours, days, weeks, right? Which is that is that terrible experience of the child in that moment when, someone who just looked at you with love turns into hate, and you see someone truly hating your guts. As a child, that is terrifying. And no, it does not switch back. There is like a punishment that goes with that daring to not obey the rules,
right?
The narcissistic parent has established, and that may take a long time.
Which is maybe why we accept being stonewalled in an adult relationship.
Yes.
When we're put on ice and, the silent treatment is going on for however long, you're like, okay, this is just where they are now. They need to ignore me and stonewall me while they come back to themselves. Exactly. And we accept it because that's what happened with us.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I'm not an appliance. I'm a person.
I know.
So you said familiar patterns. The threshold is then now lowered. Like if you're with a person or a parent who's treated you this way, then you end up in a relationship with this way. So you think that this is your baseline is so low. Like I used to say that I'd set the bar so low that I would trip on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, I don't know what normal looks like. And then the breadcrumbs, the other day, my partner, we had a barbecue and he heated up a burger after we cooked for everybody and mine was cold. So I just went to eat it and he's like, what are you doing? It's cold. Let me go and turn the barbecue back on and put the burger. And I was embarrassed for myself because I'm doing this work now. And I'm like, why am I thinking that's the most romantic, amazing gesture on the planet? Like, Linz, geez. But it felt that way. I was like, oh, look what he's done. He's heated up my burger. Well, my God, like, yes.
For someone to see a need we have and then want to fulfill that without asking for anything back to us is a foreign experience. Yeah. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
How is that even possible? Yeah.
Foreign experience. Yeah, that's what it feels like. And then you're just like, is anybody else seeing this? Like, oh. Of course, I mean, my ex probably would have thrown the burger against the wall if he was in the right mood.
Yeah.
Wow. It's so we have these, we feel connected to these people because they remind us of the love that we were conditioned to think we should receive. So if you're feeling shame or feeling guilt or feeling that you're upset with yourself for being in a relationship with somebody like this, because when you're in an abusive relationship, you do carry a lot of shame. It's not as if you don't know you're in something that's bad and is not good for you. And then you feel guilty and then you feel shame that you're putting your children through this or, and everybody has to stay in their relationship for whatever reasons that they have to stay. But while you're in there, you're just collecting more shame and oh gosh, and you have to release yourself from that. But do you think it's possible that you can release yourself from that shame? If you have to stay in a relationship with somebody who is a narcissist and for whatever reason you're not able to leave, are you able to do this work while you're there in the relationship?
I have to be honest, I don't know. I think because it is so hard to really do that deep work when we are in the presence of a narcissist, right? Because it is very confusing. We don't have access to our prefrontal cortex. Our brain has actually changed when we are with a narcissist, like biologically.
Okay.
And so we are just not capable to do the same things that we would be able to do if we were out of the relationship. But yes, absolutely, it's possible to work on shame. To which extent, I don't know. Right. But here is when the radical self-love comes in again, right? If we can work on embracing how we feel, whatever that may be. So if there's shame, if we can connect with the part of us that feels so shameful, if we can become the parent to ourselves in that moment and say, oh my God, of course I feel shame because I can see this is not good, yet I don't know how to leave. And that is so hard. Of course I feel shame. If we can just, even for a minute or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10, whatever is possible, give ourselves the space to feel the shame without attempting to change it, that is already a radical act of self-love, right? We're not loving ourselves when we have gotten over the shame. We're loving the part that feels ashamed, while at the same time, maybe loving the part that wishes it wasn't feeling shameful, or that wishes it would know the way out, or that feels angry with the partner, or that feels angry at itself for not being able to leave. If we can just create a little bit of breathing room and space for all those things that we feel. And of course, when we are with a narcissist, there are like hundreds of them, right? We're so overwhelmed because we feel so many things. It's like, I should leave, but I'm afraid to leave, but I don't know how to leave. And now I'm ashamed because I'm still here. And the sheer volume of emotions that come up in a relationship with a narcissist is tremendous. it's quite something to have to bear and carry.
And not all narcissists are physically abusing their partners.
No, that's right.
And so that's important to know. But being in this like upside down circus with that person, the second that they see you self-loving, I would imagine is the time that you start sort of disconnecting from them because you see them for who they are. When they are exposed for who they are, then that's a challenge because they don't want you to see that, because then their shame increases. So you have to do it carefully.
Yes, that's the other thing. I mean, most people are not really aware of the consequences of, once we expose a narcissist or once we even just know. I mean, they pick up on it, they can see it, they smell it from 100 miles away that, oh, there's a shift. I don't have the same power. And then they will pull out all the other tools of their toolboxes that they haven't used or have used sparingly. And now it's stronger. They're trying to get you back. So it might actually get harder.
And if we call it the narc vault. So they put all the things, everything that you've ever shown or shared or vulnerable with them, they put this in their narc vault, and they use it later and weaponize it and use it against you. And so they're either going to be one of two things. Oh my gosh. Okay. So they're either going to be good or bad to you, just like they were treated good or bad. There is no middle. I think that that's like the most important thing I keep hearing is that there's no gray. They're very black or white, good or bad.
They either love you in whatever way they're capable of loving you, whatever that means to them, or they hate you. Yeah, there is nothing in between.
There's nothing in between.
No.
Like that's really important to hear, because then that's not a you problem. It's a them problem. They just they're not capable of it. So it's not as if, someone's just like frustrated with you and, they'll get over it and they'll be better in a little bit, or you've kind of upset them. They are just, whatever it is that you did, whatever minor infraction that did them wrong, they hate you.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
Oh, geez. Okay, guys, we have a lot of work to do on radical self-love. We're going to take a little break. And when we come back, we are going to dive deeper into this new journey of loving yourself radically in the moment, wherever you are. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Sarah Wayne Callies, and I played Dr. Sarah Tancredi on Prison Break.
And I'm Paul Edelstein, and I played Agent Paul Kellerman on Prison Break. Please join us on our rewatch podcast, Prison Breaking, with Sarah and Paul.
We're going to have all kinds of guests and never-before-told stories, so follow us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can subscribe to our watch party on the link there. We can't wait to see you there.
And follow us on Instagram at Prison Break Podcast. See you there.
Welcome back, besties. We're here with your new bestie, Phoenix Gould, and she is helping us understand what we're going through when you are in a relationship with a narcissistic person, and how it relates all the way back to their childhood, your childhood, remembering that it's not a you problem, it's a them problem all day long. But you have now this new tool we're going to teach you about radically loving yourself and the self-love that you can have. And so basically what it is like transforming this narcissistic survival into a superpower. And if you reframe it, surviving a narcissist isn't just healing. It's actually creating some new superpower for yourself that you can use to heal and have an understanding of more of an understanding of that person and how they treated you and how you can grow from there. So how do we take like this anger and frustration that we have and turn it into compassion?
Compassion for ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is the interesting thing. Because I remember the start of my own healing journey, and I always felt like, oh, those darn emotions are just so in the way. There's the jealousy then that I feel, and then there's the anger that I feel, and then there's the self-loathing that I feel, and then there's that shame. Like, it was all just so overwhelming, and I just wanted to find a way to stop the feelings so I could start to live. And then I discovered through my journey that it is the feelings that will provide the key. And the feelings are there to show us the way. And that all we have to do, I mean, this is now sounds super simplified. Of course, it's not all we have to do, but it's a big part. It's the start of all we have to do is to allow ourselves to feel. Because that is also another part of self-love. We were not allowed to feel.
Right.
With the narcissist, we were not allowed to feel angry or sad or confused or disappointed, or whatever that may be. Right? We were not allowed to feel. We were not held in that feeling. We were always told that it was wrong. Whatever we felt was wrong. Because for sure, it was our own darn fault. And so we're too sensitive and we're too feeling, and we just have too much feeling. So.
Yeah, okay. Those exact words were what I would hear all the time. You're too sensitive. And too sensitive, I feel like I'm a very compassionate person. I really enjoy people and taking care of them. And I love being a mother, and I love holding my kids, and I love feeling that deep feeling. But being told by your partner that you're too sensitive but that became such a stinging insult. Mm-hmm. And then I'm wondering well, what am I supposed to be hard? I couldn't differentiate. I couldn't figure out what that meant. And so to me, because it's such a vague statement, what is it? Too sensitive? Well, okay. So should I just become harder and calloused? But that's not the answer. But they just can't handle. And it's true. The second you point out one thing that they've done, even if they've hurt you, they take it as a personal attack on their character. There's no ownership. There's no sitting down and working out how they hurt you. They just immediately turn it around, flip it on you, attack you, and then you're left always just feeling confused. Exactly. So you have to love yourself.
Yes. Well, the interesting thing is, on the one hand, they say we were too sensitive. On the other side, that's exactly what they need. Because what the narcissist wants is an emotional reaction from us. And this is what makes the toast or the appliance work, is if we give them an emotional reaction, that makes them feel powerful and strong. So they complain about it, but in the end, that's exactly what they want. But they know that if they complain about it, we will feel another emotional reaction of not understanding, of frustration, of confusion, whatever that may be. And of course, there's never any solution to a conflict, because it is conflict that they want, because it's the conflict that gives them the emotional reactions. They're not in it to solve anything.
Right.
They're in it to create more conflict, because then we show more emotion, which is the very thing they need to keep those feelings of deep, dark shame at bay inside themselves.
Creating unsolvable problems.
Yes.
That's what they want.
Yeah.
And we are here as empaths and people who want to solve all the problems and get it right. And how do I get back to that one love, to that one moment, bringing it back to your mother? The times that my mother would be proud of me or hug me, where it took everything in, the smell of her perfume, and I needed it so much. But I actually used to sleep with her shirt sprayed with perfume because it felt safe. It was that's what I want, because she didn't want to give those out very often. Mm-hmm. So then you bring it all the way back into your adult life, and all you want is that time. I say, my ex could say the most horrific things to me, but if he apologized, even if it wasn't genuine, and hugged me, I didn't care anymore about anything he said. And I didn't want to go back and hey, by the way, what you said was really shitty. I just wanted that to be held and to be loved.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I felt like I was always soothing him as well, like through, he could be shitty and then he'd go, oh, I'm so sorry. No, it was just like a total like performance. But in that time, in that performance where I thought that he was genuinely sorry for the way that he behaved, I also stopped my own feelings and tried to soothe him. Like, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I'm like, it's okay. It's all I ever said. And then, come on, we'll hug. We'll be fine. And then you have that again, break where they're nice and they're back into that, that romantic love that's in the cycle.
Yeah.
And you're desperately saying, what do I need to do to keep this person here all the time?
Exactly.
And you feel like a child. Like, I just don't want to upset my mom. Gosh. Oh, that's tough.
Well, and it's so understandable though, because we didn't get the love as children. And when it came, it feels like such a relief. And there's such a big hole where that love should have been all along, that we want that more than anything. We sacrifice a lot just to feel that little bit of love, because that is such a strong need. It supersedes all the other needs.
It does. Yeah. So how do we use these tools, apply them into adult relationships, and then identify them sooner and maybe be able to move on quicker? So that you're not stuck in this. If you're, again, you kind of start at the beginning that this is going to be tough. You're not going to be able to see the red flags that somebody else may be able to see.
This is a rough one, because we grew up believing that this is normal and this is how we're always going to feel and it's our fault. So basically, we have to have had experiences in our life that show us that there's a difference in relationships, right? If all of our relationships are like the one with a narcissist, we cannot see a difference. Once we've had enough good relationships, and maybe a relationship where we actually experience as much as possible unconditional love. Of course, that doesn't really truly exist anymore, right? The only really unconditional love we usually get is from our mother or father. And all other adult relationships are conditional. There is no unconditional relationship. If we hurt a friend, they might not want to be our friend anymore. If we're in a relationship and we cheat, they might not say, yeah, you know what, it doesn't matter. I love you the way you are. I'm going to continue to be in this relationship with you. Well, I think what helped me was that I found a therapist who gave me a space where I felt unconditional regard, not maybe unconditional love, but unconditional regard, in the sense that whatever I said, whatever I felt, he was always understanding and empathetic. And that for me was the first experience in my life of like, wow, someone actually gets me. Someone actually is still there. I mean, of course, I paid him, was my therapist, but there was still that relationship where I really felt genuine curiosity, genuine positive regard, genuine empathy and understanding, to where I could for the first time see that, oh my God, this is actually possible. And that's what I desire now in my life, because I can realize how it helps me grow, how I start to bloom, how I start to wake up, how I start to feel safe. It showed me a different way of being. And so I didn't go into this, therapeutic relationship because I realized my mother was a narcissist, or that I was in narcissistic relationships with boyfriends, but because I was struggling so much. I could see that I had no spontaneity. I could see that I was not like all the other people around me. I could see that I didn't even dare going out anymore, that being with other people was so hard that I wanted to be a hermit. And that's why I was, seeking help. And but that was that first time where I had a glimpse of something else. So I think we need to see that there might be another way, that there is another way, that we need that comparison. Of course, a really good friend could do that. A family member could do that. And hopefully another parent can also do that if we have just one narcissistic parent. Or maybe we run into a relationship that is amazing. We have a really loving partner. But I think first we need to realize that where we were before is not normal, is not the norm, is very different, so that we can start to ask questions. And maybe that's where the journey starts, right?
I love that. Start asking questions. Start looking around and noticing that perhaps something is wrong. Something isn't okay. I mean, this is why we're doing the show. I just want so many people to just hear quickly that the relationship that you had with that narcissistic parent is real. And it can be dangerous if it can set you up to be in a relationship with somebody who is narcissistic or abusive, or so we really want this message that you're saying. It's like, ask the questions, understand where you are, understand too that if you like, we kind of know ourselves, and we know. I feel like I knew what I wanted. I knew that I deserved more than this. I just didn't know how to feel like I deserved it all the time.
Right.
So there were moments where I'm like, hell no, I'm not doing this. And then other times I'm like, well, I guess I am going to do this. Because I don't know it was scary. Maybe that's the feeling. It's like, this is all I've ever known. Feels comfortable. It doesn't feel right, but I just don't really know what to do.
Right.
So if you're feeling that way, if you're feeling overwhelmed or scared, that's okay too.
Yes. And that's a good sign, right? When you're in a relationship with someone, do you feel safe? Do you feel you could say anything and the other person would be respectful, curious, and understanding? If they're not, then there's something wrong with that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's so true. You're not an appliance. We can't just bang you out to make you better. Okay, so we're going to take our final break. When we come back, Phoenix is going to give you a tool for your bestie toolkit. We'll be right back. We are building a bestie toolkit for our listeners that they can take with them on this journey, this healing journey through and out of domestic abuse, toxic relationships, and just sort of having one place that they can go to and just draw on that just tool of inspiration. So what would be the tool that you would put in this toolkit for our besties?
It would definitely be the practice of radical self-love. And knowing that our work really is to build a different relationship with ourselves. Because we're so conditioned to look on the outside for the change. But once we realize that the outside cannot heal us, we have to go inside. We have to build, create, grow a different relationship with ourselves that is completely supportive, completely loving, completely unconditionally loving and empathetic. That's the right way to look. That's like the first step and the most powerful step I find in my experience, and those are my clients. If we can go there, if we can turn the focus from the outside to the inside and ask ourselves, what kind of relationship do I have with myself? From 1 to 10, where is it? Like, where 10 is awesome. I feel so good about myself. I feel like I'm loving. I forgive myself when I make mistakes easily. I'm willing to learn. When we feel that, that's great. And when 1 is like, oh my God, I'm really hard on myself. I doubt myself. It's like even just to get a number, and so we know where we are at. And if we can then decide, okay, well, if I could only work on one thing in the world, that's what I want to work on. Because really, the only person that's always going to be with us is ourselves.
Everywhere you go, there you are.
Yes. And so if we could be that cheerleader for ourselves, if we could be that greatest support that we are longing for, and it's always there and it never depends on anyone else, well, then we're free, right?
Wow. Oh, it's so inspirational. It does feel freeing. Just even those like visualizing yourself, loving yourself, being your number one supporters. Like that's a beautiful thing.
And to know that with a radical self-love, what makes it radical is that you don't have to go anywhere first before you start practicing the radical self-love. You can be in a place where you don't love yourself at all. And the practice is to hold space, to understand, to have empathy, and to not want to change that part of you that is incapable right now of loving yourself. If you can just say, yes, I really don't. I have no idea how. And of course I don't. I've never learned it. That's where the understanding comes in, the empathy. It's just like, oh my God, I wish I could. If we can just hold space for wherever we're at in that moment, that is a practice of radical self-love. Of course, we don't love ourselves in that moment. Like we can't feel the love. But when you do the practice in those specific steps that I've developed, you actually get to a place of peace with yourself, which feels incredible. And it no matter what we're feeling, overwhelm, disappointment, anger, jealousy, shame, if we go through the steps of that radical self-love, we come to a place where something relaxes and goes, ah, and we get to a place of peace in that moment with that feeling, which is so transformative.
I feel like this conversation has just been so inspiring and very transformational for me. Hopefully, I imagine this will be for our listeners because it's something that you can do with yourself. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing
You're so
your
welcome.
inspiration with us. So how do we find you?
I am you can find me on WhatsApp, on Facebook, through email. And I guess we can attach all that information in the show notes if people would like to find out more. And I have what I spoke to you before we started is I have created an audio meditation that is available online for people who want to learn how to practice the radical self-love. It's a guided meditation that leads people through the practice so they can get an experience of what it's like to have that radical self-love. And this is where it's really important that we create experiences, because we can know in our mind, really I should be loving myself. But that logical knowledge doesn't translate into our body, into our spirit, because we haven't had the experience. Now with the audio meditation, it's possible to have an experience of radical self-love. And that is what can create or start to create those changes that make that self-love easier over time as we practice it. So we could attach that to the show notes, the link, if you would like.
Oh, that's such a beautiful gift. Thank you. Yes, we would love that. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
I look forward to having you back, and I'm going to start this practice right now and love myself radically. I really appreciate you being on with us. So thank you for tuning into this episode of Bitch is a Bad Word with your new bestie, Phoenix Gould. She's here to tell you all the ways, show you the ways to radically love yourself. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank
speaking with
you. Since we've launched, we have had an outpouring of emails and DMs from listeners sharing their real, raw, and tragically relatable stories of domestic abuse. We keep reading one common theme. Our show is helping you feel seen. Your ex used to do that all the time, and maybe I'm not crazy. You're not. You've just been living in a silo, and your support system has been stripped away systematically over time, and we want to help you build it back. We are building the biggest, baddest, bestie gang, and we're doing it on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/bitchesabadword and come check out all the awesomeness that we've got going on. We have a $4 tier that will give you early access to ad-free episodes, 10% discounts on merch, some exclusive Patreon member-only merch designs, and we are designing some really rad stuff that you're going to want to rock. We also have a little segment called Tea with Lindsay, where I'll be spilling all the best tea from your bestie. We have an $8 tier that gives you all of those things, an additional 15% merch discount, and access to our exclusive Discord server. We are vetting every single member, so our besties can go in and feel safe to share their stories, find their voices, rebuild their network. And if you're being financially monitored or money's just tight, no worries. We've been there. We've got you. We are going to make it so that other Patreons can gift a membership so everyone can go in and find the bestie they need. We're also going to be doing some behind the scenes stuff, and we're just going to be growing it over time, and we cannot wait for you to join. So come find us on patreon.com/bitch is a bad word, and let's get this going. Let's build this bestie gang. We've got your back. We'll see you on Patreon. Besties, it is that time in our show where we read the texties from the XDs. This particular text was sent after I left my home and got ourselves safe, my children and I, after a very difficult night. This was the last night. As I talked to you guys, when you share children with somebody, you're going to have to keep interacting with them. Do it differently. I know I didn't do it the right way, but this texty from my XD starts with me just saying, we all need a break. So the kids will be staying with me tonight. He says, "You got what you wanted. Enjoy your life. I'm glad you did it this way, actually. Makes closure much easier. Painful as hell, but it was always our destiny. I wish you the best. Truly." I reply, "It's beyond painful. Maybe one day you can imagine the position you put me in last night that forced me into this decision today." He replies, "You just don't know how to fight with me. I say stupid shit to make a point that I'm unable to make otherwise. Not your fault, clearly. And of course, I deeply regret saying awful things to you. I wish you the best." I say, "I wasn't even fighting with you. You literally backed me into the laundry room." Ooh, I don't think I can share this part. This is very intense. So basically, he said he backs me into the laundry room and tells me that he's going to force me to have sex with him at that moment. And he replies, "No need to rehash that, Lindsay. It was an awful fight." And I said, "Well, that's not a fight." And he says, "Get well away from me." I said, "It's straight up abuse from you." He says, "Damage is done. Let's heal." So as we were talking about today on the show with Phoenix, your new bestie, if you're expecting a narcissist to take ownership for anything that they've done, no matter how awful, stop. It's not going to happen. Just right here. There was no accountability. And also it was my fault that I didn't know how to fight with him. Like, what the hell? How about you just don't say mean shit? How about we just don't fight? I mean, it's possible. I'm in a relationship right now. We have conflict. Sometimes things don't go the way we both want it, but we don't fight. We work through it. It's super healthy. I'm not begging for forgiveness or shit that I didn't get from my mom. It's not going to be super easy. It's going to be worth it. You can do hard things. People like this, remember, they're like a 6-year-old child. That is how long they've been cooked. It's a them thing, not a you thing. And I guess if you want to get to the point where you can imagine yourself expressing empathy for someone, doesn't necessarily mean forgiveness, just that you have empathy and imagine that that person is a 6-year-old child that has not been loved right. I guess that's all you can do. So we look forward to seeing you next time. We drop our episodes every Tuesday. Our favorite word. See you next Tuesday, besties. Please send us messages. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone number is 331-BITCHES. You can email us at biabwpod@gmail.com. Send us a DM. Reach out to us in the comments. Instagram is Bitches a Bad Word Pod. TikTok and YouTube is Bitches a Bad Word. And you can follow along the Bitches a Bad Word podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else you listen to your shows. This has been a Caliber Studios production. Our editor is Kevin Mackler. Our producer and booker is Noah Murphy. Our social media is managed by Taylor Jade and Samantha Bunting. Our music was composed by Drew Kevorkian. Our art design was created by Eric Johnson and Kevin Roche. Our cinematography is created by Alexander Grzinski, and our intern is Joe Mellon. This has been a Caliber Studios production. Bitches being bad.